They called Dominic Castellano the ghost of Manhattan. He controlled half of Newark Port. He made the FBI swallow their pride. He could erase anyone with a single phone call at midnight. But there was one thing that brought the most powerful man in New York to his knees for 912 nights. His daughter Lily, 2.5 years old, had never spoken a single word. The best specialists in America were helpless. Money meant nothing. Power was useless. The child's silence was the only thing Dominic Castellano couldn't buy, couldn't threaten, couldn't break. Until that rainy night, when Lily saw the frail waitress from the Bronx, an Asian girl Dominic had never met in his life. The child suddenly dropped her stuffed bunny, reached out both hands toward the stranger, and screamed her first word ever, Mamá. The entire restaurant went silent. Dominic Castellano drew his gun, but he didn't know a bullet cannot kill the truth. That night, the Mafia boss discovered his daughter wasn't mute. His daughter had been waiting for the right person, and that person, the poor girl trembling before him, was the child's biological mother. Olivia couldn't breathe. Dominic Castellano's grip on her wrist was iron. His fingers dug into her skin as he dragged her through the restaurant, past the frozen staff, past the terrified diners who pretended not to see. No one would help her. No one would dare. The rain hit her face the moment they stepped outside. 2 men in black suits flanked them immediately. One opened the back door of a Mercedes so dark it swallowed the streetlights. Dominic shoved her inside. The door slammed shut. The locks clicked, and Olivia Chen, a 27-year-old waitress who had never committed a crime in her life, found herself trapped in a car with the most dangerous man in New York. She pressed herself against the window, trembling. Her mind raced, searching for answers she didn't have. Why did that little girl call her mama? Why did that word feel like a knife twisting in her chest? Dominic sat across from her, his gray eyes cutting through the darkness. He said nothing. He just watched her like a predator studying prey, deciding whether to strike or wait. The silence was suffocating. Olivia's thoughts drifted as they always did when fear consumed her to this morning. 6 hours ago, she had stood in a cemetery in Queens, Section D, Row 12, a tiny headstone with no flowers, no visitors, no proof that anyone remembered. Baby girl Chen, born and died same day. Forever loved. Olivia had knelt in the wet grass, placing a single wildflower she'd picked from the sidewalk crack near her apartment. She couldn't afford real flowers. She couldn't afford anything. "I'm sorry, baby," she had whispered. "Mommy's still here. Mommy will always come." 912 days. That's how long it had been since the doctors told her that her daughter didn't survive. 912 nights of waking up to phantom cries. 912 mornings of wondering why she was still alive when her baby wasn't. The car hit a pothole, jolting Olivia back to the present. She looked down at her wrist, the one Dominic wasn't holding, and touched the braided bracelet she never took off. Faded, frayed, made of cheap hospital string. The nurse had let her keep it. The only thing she had left from that night. The night her world ended. Olivia worked 3 jobs now, cleaning offices at 5 a.m., delivering packages until noon, waitressing until 2 in the morning. She slept 4 hours a day when she slept at all. Her apartment in the Bronx had no heat. In winter, she slept in her coat. The landlord didn't care. Why would he? She was 3 months behind on rent. The hospital bills totaled $87,000. She would never pay them off. She knew that. But she kept working, kept surviving, because stopping meant thinking, and thinking meant remembering. The scars on her wrist itched. She covered them with her sleeve instinctively, a habit born from years of hiding. The cigarette burns on her forearm throbbed beneath the fabric. Ghost pain from a man she had trusted. Marcus Webb, the man who said he loved her. The man who pushed her down the stairs when she was 7 months pregnant. The man who visited her in the hospital just long enough to say, "Good. I didn't want it anyway." Olivia had survived him. She had survived losing her baby. She had survived poverty and hunger and nights when the razor blade in the bathroom called her name. But she didn't know if she could survive this. The car slowed. Through the rain-streaked window, Olivia saw a building that touched the clouds. Glass and steel. A palace in the sky. The door opened. Cold air rushed in. Dominic stepped out first, then turned to look at her. His face was unreadable. "Move," he said. Olivia's legs wouldn't obey. Fear had turned them to stone. One of the guards reached in and pulled her out. She stumbled on the wet pavement, nearly falling, but no one caught her. Dominic was already walking toward the entrance. He pulled out his phone, spoke 3 words that made Olivia's blood freeze. "Bring her up." And the child? The penthouse was a tomb wrapped in marble. Olivia stood in the center of a living room that cost more than she would earn in 10 lifetimes. Crystal chandeliers, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Manhattan's glittering skyline, furniture that belonged in museums. But there was no warmth here, no photographs on the walls, no signs that anyone actually lived in this cold, beautiful prison. Dominic circled her like a shark. His suit jacket was gone now. His sleeves were rolled up, revealing forearms corded with muscle and marked with old scars. He looked less like a businessman and more like what he truly was, a predator in his domain. "Sit," he commanded. Olivia's legs gave out before she could decide whether to obey. She collapsed onto a leather chair, her wet uniform clinging to her skin, her teeth chattering from cold and terror. Dominic pulled a chair directly in front of her. He sat so close that their knees almost touched. His gray eyes bore into hers with an intensity that made her want to disappear. "Who sent you?" "No one," Olivia whispered. "I swear I don't know what's happening." "Liar." The word was a whip crack. "My daughter hasn't spoken in 2.5 years. 2.5 years of silence. And tonight she looks at you and screams, 'Mamá.' You expect me to believe that's coincidence? I don't know why she did that." Tears spilled down Olivia's cheeks. "I've never seen her before. I've never seen you before. I'm just a waitress. Please. I don't understand." Dominic leaned closer. His voice dropped to a dangerous whisper. "Do you know my wife? Vanessa Castellano?" Olivia shook her head frantically. "No, I don't know anyone named Vanessa. I don't know any Castellanos. I work 3 jobs. I barely have time to sleep. I can't." Her words dissolved into sobs. Dominic watched her cry with the patience of a man who had seen countless people break under pressure. He was waiting for the crack, the slip, the moment her story would fall apart. But Olivia had no story to fall apart. She had nothing but the truth. "Have you ever met my daughter before tonight?" "No." "Have you ever been to my home, my businesses, any property connected to my family?" No. Dominic pulled out his phone. He dialed without looking away from her face. "I need a full background check. Olivia Chen, everything. Birth records, medical records, employment history, every address she's ever lived. I want it in 1 hour." He hung up. The silence that followed was worse than the questions. Olivia sat there, shivering, crying silently, while Dominic stared at her like she was a puzzle he couldn't solve. Minutes passed, maybe hours. She lost track of time. Then the elevator doors opened. A middle-aged woman in a gray uniform stepped out, carrying a small child wrapped in a blanket. Lily. The little girl's eyes were open, wide, alert. The moment she saw Olivia, her entire body strained toward her. "Mamá," she said softly. Not a scream this time. A statement. A recognition. The nanny looked terrified. "Mr. Castellano?" She wouldn't sleep. She kept saying that word over and over. I've never heard her speak before tonight." Dominic's jaw tightened. "Put her down." The nanny set Lily on the floor. The little girl immediately toddled toward Olivia, her stuffed bunny dragging behind her. Olivia froze. She didn't know what to do. She was afraid to move, afraid to breathe. But Lily had no such fear. The child climbed onto Olivia's lap like she belonged there. She pressed her face into Olivia's damp uniform and let out a small sigh. Within seconds, she was calm. Dominic watched this with an expression Olivia couldn't read. Something flickered behind his eyes, confusion, pain, jealousy, wonder all tangled together. "She doesn't do that," he said quietly, almost to himself. "She doesn't let anyone touch her. She screams when strangers come near. She screams when I hold her for too long." Olivia looked down at the child in her arms. Lily's breathing had slowed. Her tiny fingers clutched Olivia's braided bracelet. Something inside Olivia cracked. She didn't understand it. She couldn't explain it. But holding this child felt like pressing on a bruise that had never healed. The phone rang. Dominic answered, listened. His face changed, confusion hardening into something darker, more dangerous. "Say that again." A long pause. "Are you certain?" Another pause. He hung up slowly. When he looked at Olivia, there was something new in his eyes, something that looked almost like fear. "Olivia Chen," he said, his voice hollow. "Orphan, survivor of domestic abuse. Lost a baby girl 2.5 years ago." Olivia's heart stopped. "Your daughter," Dominic continued, each word like a stone dropping into still water, "was born on March 15th. At Street, Catherine's Hospital, at 3:47 a.m. Olivia couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. Dominic looked at Lily peacefully asleep in a stranger's arms for the first time in her life. So was mine. The silence stretched like a blade between them. Dominic stared at Olivia. Olivia stared at Lily. And somewhere in the space between heartbeats, the world shifted on its axis. Same hospital, Same day, same hour. It meant nothing. It had to mean nothing. Dominic shook off the thought. He had built an empire on logic, on cold calculation. He would not let coincidence unravel him. Take her to the guest room, he ordered the guards. She doesn't leave until I say so. Two men moved toward Olivia. The moment their shadows fell across her, Lily's eyes snapped open. What happened next would haunt Dominic for the rest of his life. His daughter, his silent, broken, unreachable daughter, opened her mouth and screamed, "Mamá!" The sound tore through the penthouse like a siren. Raw, desperate, alive. "No. Mamá, stay!" The guards froze. The nanny gasped. Even the rain outside seemed to pause. Dominic couldn't move. In 2.5 years, Lily had never raised her voice. She had never cried for attention. She had never asked for anything, not food, not comfort, not love. She existed in a bubble of silence, unreachable even to her own father. But now she was screaming, for a stranger. "Mamá! No go, Mama, stay, stay." Lily's tiny hands clutched Olivia's uniform so tightly her knuckles turned white. Her face was red, tears streaming, her whole body shaking with a desperation that Dominic had never seen in her, had never seen directed at him. "Stop," Dominic heard himself say. His voice sounded far away. "Leave her." The guards stepped back. Lily's screams softened into whimpers. She pressed herself deeper into Olivia's chest, hiccuping, trembling, refusing to let go. Olivia looked terrified. Her arms hovered uncertainly around the child, afraid to hold her, afraid to push her away. I don't know what to do," she whispered. "I don't understand why she just stay there." Dominic's voice cracked on the last word. He turned away so no one would see his face. He walked to the window and stood with his back to the room, watching the rain paint silver lines down the glass. His reflection stared back at him, hollow-eyed, clenched jaw, hands shaking at his sides. Behind him, he heard the sounds of Lily calming down, soft murmurs from Olivia, the rustle of fabric as the child settled, then silence. He turned. Olivia sat motionless on the leather chair, her body rigid with exhaustion and fear. But her arms had finally wrapped around Lily instinctively, protectively, the way a mother holds a child. Lily was asleep. Her small face was peaceful, her breathing was even, her fingers still clutched that old braided bracelet on Olivia's wrist. Dominic had never seen his daughter sleep so quickly, so deeply, so safely. Something cracked inside his chest. He had spent 2.5 years trying to reach Lily. He had hired the best doctors, the best therapists, the best specialists money could buy. He had held her through silent nights, sung to her, begged her to just say one word. One word. She had given that word to a waitress from the Bronx. Jealousy burned through him, hot and shameful and impossible to suppress. But beneath it was something worse. Hope, because if Lily could speak, if Lily could connect, if Lily could love, then maybe she wasn't broken after all. Maybe she had just been waiting. Dominic moved closer, slowly, quietly. He knelt beside the chair and looked at his daughter's face. Then he looked at Olivia. The resemblance hit him like a bullet. Green eyes, the exact same shade, the exact same shape. The way Lily's dark hair fell across her forehead just like Olivia's. Not like Vanessa's. Nothing like Vanessa's. Dominic's blood turned to ice. He stood, pulled out his phone, dialed a number he rarely used. "I need medical records," he said, his voice flat and deadly. "All of them. My wife's pregnancy files. My daughter's birth certificate. Blood type. DNA. Everything." A pause. And the girl Olivia Chen, her hospital records from 2.5 years ago. Every page, every signature, every doctor's name. He hung up. In the chair, Olivia had fallen asleep too, exhaustion finally claiming her. Lily was curled against her chest like she had always belonged there. Dominic stood in the darkness, watching them. Two strangers, sleeping like mother and child. And for the first time in his life, the ghost of Manhattan was afraid of what he might find. Dominic didn't sleep. He sat in his study, surrounded by files and documents that his team had delivered throughout the night. Coffee grew cold beside him. The rain stopped sometime before dawn. He didn't notice. The medical records spread across his desk like a map of lies. He started with Vanessa's pregnancy file. His late wife, the woman he had mourned for 2.5 years, the mother of his child. Or so he had believed. The first inconsistency was small. A date on an ultrasound image that didn't match the timestamp in the metadata. Could be a clerical error. Could be nothing. The second was harder to ignore. Vanessa's blood type was AB negative. Dominic's was O positive. According to basic genetics, Their child could only have type A or type B blood. Lily's medical records listed her as O negative. Impossible. Dominic read the line again. Then again. His hands began to shake. He pulled up Olivia Chen's hospital file, the one from 2.5 years ago. The night she gave birth. The night her daughter supposedly died. Blood type of the mother, O negative. Blood type of the infant, O negative. The room tilted. Dominic forced himself to keep reading. There had to be an explanation. There had to be something that made sense. Then he found the name. Dr. Nathan Park, attending physician for Vanessa Castellano's delivery. Dr. Nathan Park, attending physician for Olivia Chen's delivery. The same doctor, the same night, 2 women giving birth in the same hospital, at almost the same hour, under the care of the same man. 1 baby lived, 1 baby died. But which one? Dominic slammed his fist against the desk, papers scattered, his coffee cup shattered on the floor. None of this made sense. And yet all of it made perfect, terrible sense. Sunlight crept through the penthouse windows. Olivia woke slowly, her body stiff from sleeping upright in a chair. For a moment, she forgot where she was. Then the memories crashed back: the restaurant, the scream, the car, the interrogation. She looked down. Lily was still there, curled in her lap like a kitten, breathing softly, completely at peace. But something was different. The little girl was awake. Her green eyes, those impossible, familiar green eyes, were fixed on a piece of paper on the coffee table. In her hand was a crayon. She was drawing. Olivia watched, afraid to move, afraid to break whatever spell had settled over this moment. Lily's small fingers moved across the paper, clumsy circles, wobbly lines, the kind of art that only a toddler could create. Then Lily looked up at Olivia and smiled. It was small, hesitant, like a flower opening after a long winter, but it was real. Olivia's chest tightened, that familiar ache, the one she felt every time she visited the cemetery, every time she heard a baby cry on the subway, every time she woke from dreams of holding a daughter she never got to keep. That ache pulsed now, stronger than ever. She didn't understand it. She couldn't explain it. But looking at this child felt like looking at a part of herself that had been stolen. "Good morning," Olivia whispered. Lily's smile widened. She held up the paper. 3 figures. Crude, barely recognizable. But Olivia could make out what they were meant to be. A tall shape, a medium shape, a tiny shape between them. "Daddy," Lily said, pointing to the tall one. Then she pointed to the medium shape and looked directly at Olivia. "Mamá." Olivia's eyes filled with tears. Dominic's phone rang. He grabbed it, expecting his investigators, expecting answers. The number was unknown. He answered anyway. "Mr. Castellano?" The voice on the other end was old, weak, trembling with something that sounded like fear or guilt. "Who is this?" A long pause. Labored breathing. The sound of machines beeping in the background. "My name is Dr. Nathan Park. I was the physician who delivered your daughter." Dominic's grip tightened on the phone. "I'm dying, Mr. Castellano. Cancer. Stage 4. The doctors say I have weeks, maybe days." Another pause. A wet, rattling cough. "I need to confess something before I meet God. Something about your wife, about your daughter, about the night everything went wrong." Dominic's voice came out as a whisper. "What did you do?" The old man began to cry. "I'm so sorry, Mr. Castellano. I'm so sorry for what we did to that poor girl. She didn't deserve it. None of them deserved it." Dr. Park's confession came in fragments, broken sentences, labored breaths, the sound of a dying man unburdening sins he had carried for nearly 3 years. Dominic stood by the window, phone pressed to his ear, listening to his world collapse word by word. "Your wife came to me 5 years ago," Dr. Park began. "She was desperate, crying. She said you wanted children more than anything. She said your family expected an heir." Dominic's jaw tightened. He remembered those conversations, the pressure from his father before the old man died, the expectation that a Castellano must continue the bloodline. "But there was a problem," the doctor continued. "Mrs. Castellano was infertile, completely, irreversibly. She had known since she was 19, but she never told you." The words landed like bullets. Vanessa, his beautiful, gentle Vanessa, the woman who had cried tears of joy when she told him she was pregnant, the woman who had spent 9 months decorating the nursery, choosing names, planning their future as a family. All of it, a lie. "She was terrified you would leave her, doctor," Park said. "She said the Castellano family would never accept a barren wife. So she came up with a plan." "What plan?" Dominic's voice was ice. "She wore prosthetics, fake belly. For 9 months, She pretended to be pregnant. She had ultrasound images fabricated. I helped her with that. God forgive me. She fooled everyone, even you. Dominic closed his eyes. He remembered touching Vanessa's stomach, feeling what he thought were kicks, talking to his unborn daughter through the skin. Prosthetics, padding, lies pressed against his palms. But she needed a real baby, Dr. Park continued. A baby that could pass as hers. That's when your uncle got involved. Victor. The name hit Dominic like a knife between the ribs. Mr. Victor Castellano approached me 6 months before the due date. He said he had found the perfect candidate. A young woman, an orphan, no family, no connections. She was pregnant, alone, vulnerable. No one would miss her baby. Olivia Chen. Yes, Dr. Park's voice cracked. We monitored her entire pregnancy. When she went into labor, we made sure she was assigned to me. Everything was planned down to the minute. Dominic's hand trembled. The phone case cracked under his grip. The birth was difficult. Miss Chen was exhausted, barely conscious. The moment her daughter was born healthy, perfect, beautiful, we took her and gave her to Vanessa. Yes, we told Miss Chen that her baby had died, respiratory failure. We showed her a death certificate. We showed her a body. A body? A stillborn from another ward. We switched them. Miss Chen was so broken, so sedated. She never questioned it. She just accepted that her daughter was gone. Dominic couldn't breathe. He thought of Olivia, that thin, scarred, exhausted woman sleeping in his living room. He thought of the 912 days she had spent visiting an empty grave, mourning a child who was alive, who was sleeping 10 feet away from her, who had called her Mama the moment she saw her. Why? Dominic's voice was barely human. Why did Victor help her? What did he gain? Dr. Park coughed. A wet, rattling sound. Control, Mr. Castellano. Victor never intended for your wife to raise that child into adulthood. He wanted leverage, a secret he could hold over her and eventually, over you. If the child had no Castellano blood, she couldn't inherit. Victor would be next in line. The pieces clicked into place. Victor's unusual interest in Lily, his constant presence, his subtle suggestions that Dominic should focus on business, not fatherhood. He had been waiting, watching, planning. And Vanessa? Dominic asked. Did she know everything? Did she know about Victor's plan? A long pause. Yes, Mr. Castellano. Your wife orchestrated everything. The fake pregnancy, the stolen child, the forged documents. She was the architect. Dominic's vision blurred. But she became a liability, Dr. Park whispered. She started to love the child, really love her. She talked about confessing, about telling you the truth. Victor couldn't allow that. The car accident. It wasn't an accident, Mr. Castellano. Your uncle killed your wife to keep the secret buried. And I stayed silent because I was afraid he would kill me too. The phone cracked fully now. Shards of glass bit into Dominic's palm. Blood dripped onto the white carpet. He didn't feel it. I'm sorry, Dr. Park sobbed. I'm so sorry. That girl, Miss Chen, she lost everything because of us. Her baby, her sanity, her will to live. And I watched it happen. I let it happen. Dominic said nothing. Please, the dying man begged. Please tell her I'm sorry. Tell her that her daughter is alive. Tell her, you don't get to ask for forgiveness. Dominic's voice was death itself. You stole a child from her mother. You let an innocent woman believe her baby was dead for 2.5 years. You helped my uncle murder my wife. He crushed the remains of the phone in his fist. Pray that God is more merciful than I am, Dr. Park. Because if I find you before the cancer does, you'll wish you had never been born. Dominic stood alone in his study, bleeding hand hanging at his side, staring at the wall. The truth was a hurricane inside his skull. Lily wasn't his daughter. Not by blood, not by genetics, not by any biological measure that the world would recognize. She was stolen property, a child ripped from her real mother's arms and placed into his. And Vanessa, his wife, his partner, the woman he had buried with roses and tears, had orchestrated everything. She had looked him in the eyes for 2 years and lied. Every smile, every touch, every whispered I love you, lies, all of it. And Victor, his uncle, his father's brother, the man who had taught him to shoot, who had stood beside him at Vanessa's funeral, who had offered comfort when Lily wouldn't speak. A murderer. Dominic wanted to destroy something. He wanted to put his fist through the wall, flip his desk, shatter every window in this glass prison he called home. But then he heard it. Laughter. Small, bright, impossible. He walked to the doorway of the living room and stopped. Lily was sitting on the carpet, stacking blocks with clumsy fingers. Olivia sat beside her, helping, guiding, patient in a way that no nanny had ever been. Lily knocked the tower down, blocks scattered everywhere, and she laughed. Dominic had never heard that sound before. In 2.5 years of silence, his daughter had never laughed. Not once. She was laughing now. For Olivia, because of Olivia, something shattered inside Dominic's chest, but it wasn't anger. It wasn't betrayal. It was the wall he had built around his heart. Because watching Lily smile at this woman, watching his daughter come alive for the first time, Dominic realized something that transcended blood and biology. He loved this child. He had fed her, held her, stayed awake through countless silent nights just to watch her breathe. He had begged God to let her speak, to let her connect, to let her be okay. Lily wasn't his by blood, but she was his. She would always be his. And now he had to tell Olivia the truth. Dominic waited until Lily fell asleep for her afternoon nap. Then he asked Olivia to join him in the study. She came reluctantly, arms wrapped around herself, eyes wary. She had spent the morning in a daze, confused, exhausted, still not understanding why she was here or what any of this meant. Dominic closed the door. "Sit down. I'd rather stand. Please." Something in his voice made her obey. Dominic sat across from her. He looked at her face, the hollow cheeks, the dark circles, the green eyes that matched his daughter's perfectly. "What I'm about to tell you will destroy you," he said quietly, "and I'm sorry, but you deserve to know." Olivia's hands began to tremble. Dominic told her everything. The fake pregnancy, the infertility, Victor's involvement, Dr. Park's confession, the stillborn that was placed in her arms while her living daughter was carried away. He told her that Lily, the child who had screamed Mama in a crowded restaurant, was her daughter, her real daughter, alive, healthy, sleeping in the next room. Olivia didn't move. For a long moment, she just stared at him. Her face was blank, empty, as if her brain had simply refused to process the words. Then it hit her. No. The word came out as a whisper. No, 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 no. She stood up. Her chair crashed backward. "You're lying." She lunged at Dominic, fists swinging. Her knuckles connected with his chest, his shoulders, his jaw. She hit him with everything she had, all the grief, all the rage, all the years of believing her baby was rotting in the ground. "They took my baby. You people took my baby." Dominic didn't block her, didn't fight back. He let her hit him. "I held a dead child. I buried her. I visited her grave every week for 2.5 years. Her voice cracked. Her fists slowed. "She was alive. My baby was alive and I didn't know." Olivia collapsed against him, sobbing so hard her whole body convulsed. Her fingers clutched his shirt like she was drowning, and he was the only thing keeping her afloat. Dominic held her. He didn't speak, didn't offer comfort. He just let her break apart in his arms, because there were no words that could fix this, no apology that could give back what was stolen. 912 days of grief, 912 nights of crying herself to sleep, 912 mornings of wishing she had died instead, all because of his family. Minutes passed, maybe hours. Olivia's sobs faded into exhausted whimpers. Her grip on his shirt loosened. When she finally looked up at him, her eyes were red, swollen, emptied of everything except one question. "Why did you tell me? You could have kept this secret forever. You could have sent me away and I never would have known." Dominic looked at her, at this broken woman who had survived more than anyone should have to survive. At the mother of the child he loved more than his own life. "Because I didn't want to start something with a lie." Olivia frowned through her tears. "Start what?" Dominic's voice was barely a whisper. "Us." Olivia stared at him. "I'm not asking for forgiveness," he said. "I don't deserve it. My family destroyed your life, but I'm asking you to stay. For Lily. She needs her mother." He paused. "And maybe, I need you too." Olivia didn't leave Lily's room that night. She sat on the edge of the small bed, watching her daughter sleep. Her daughter. The word still felt foreign in her mouth, impossible in her mind. For 912 nights, Olivia had dreamed of this face. She had imagined what her baby would look like at 6 months, at 1 year, at 2. She had tortured herself with visions of first steps she would never see, first words she would never hear. But here she was, real, breathing, alive. Olivia's tears fell silently onto the blanket. She didn't try to stop them. She had spent 2.5 years holding everything inside: the grief, the guilt, the endless questions of what she could have done differently. Now the dam had broken, and she let it flow. Around midnight, Lily stirred. The little girl's eyes fluttered open. In the darkness, those green eyes, Olivia's eyes, found her mother's face. "Mamá, cry," Olivia's breath caught. Lily reached up with one small hand and touched Olivia's wet cheek. Her tiny fingers traced the path of a tear. "Mama, cry," she repeated. Then, with the simple wisdom that only children possess, she added, "Lily here. Lily love Mamá." Something inside Olivia broke open. Not the way it had broken in the study, violent, jagged, destructive. This was different. This was a seed cracking through concrete. This was light finding its way through years of darkness. She gathered Lily into her arms and held her close. The little girl nestled against her chest, small fingers clutching Olivia's shirt, breathing softly. "I'm here too," Olivia whispered. "Mamma's here. Mamá will never leave you again." Lily sighed contentedly. Within minutes, she was asleep again, but Olivia stayed awake, holding her daughter, counting every breath like a miser counting gold. Each rise and fall of that tiny chest was proof, evidence, confirmation that this wasn't a dream. Her baby was alive. After 912 nights of emptiness, of visiting an empty grave, of waking up with phantom weight in her arms, her baby was alive. The grief didn't disappear. Olivia knew it never would. She had lost 2.5 years. First smiles, first steps, first words that should have been spoken to her. But beneath the grief, something else began to grow. Gratitude. Her daughter was alive. Her daughter knew her face. Her daughter called her Mamá. Not every mother got a second chance. Not every grave gave back its dead. Olivia pressed her lips to Lily's forehead and cried. But these tears were different. These tears were rain after a drought. Outside the nursery door, Dominic stood in the shadows. He had been there for hours, listening, waiting, afraid to enter. The ghost of Manhattan, the man who made FBI agents tremble and rival bosses disappear, was terrified of a 27-year-old waitress from the Bronx because she held the power to destroy him. Not through violence, not through betrayal, but through something far more devastating. She could take Lily and leave. Legally, morally, she had every right. Lily was her biological daughter. Dominic had no claim, not really. He had raised another woman's child, loved another woman's child, and now that woman was sitting 10 feet away, holding what was rightfully hers. Dominic pressed his forehead against the wall. He had built empires. He had survived assassination attempts. He had buried his wife without shedding a tear in public. But the thought of losing Lily, of watching Olivia walk out that door with his daughter in her arms, made him want to fall to his knees. So he stood there, waiting, praying to a God he wasn't sure he believed in. Dawn came slowly. Gray light crept through the penthouse windows. The city below began to wake car horns, distant sirens, the rhythm of 8 million lives starting another day. Olivia emerged from the nursery. Her eyes were swollen. Her face was pale, but there was something different in the way she carried herself. The broken woman from last night was still there, but so was something else. Strength, determination, the steel that had kept her alive through foster homes and abuse and poverty and loss. She found Dominic in the kitchen, standing by the window, still wearing yesterday's clothes. He turned when he heard her footsteps. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then Olivia asked the question that had kept her awake even longer than her tears. "Why did you tell me?" Dominic's jaw tightened. "You could have hidden it forever," she continued. "You could have sent me away, made me disappear. Men like you do that, don't you? Make problems disappear?" "Yes. Then why didn't you?" Dominic looked at her, really looked at her, not as a threat, or a complication, or a problem to be solved, but as a woman, a mother, a person who had survived the unsurvivable. "Because I'm tired of lies," he said quietly. "My whole life has been built on them. My marriage, my family, everything I thought I knew." He stepped closer. "I watched you with her last night, through the door. I saw the way she reached for you, the way she smiled in her sleep." His voice cracked. "Lily has never smiled in her sleep, not once in 2.5 years. And in one night with you, she smiled, she laughed. She spoke more words than she's spoken in her entire life." Olivia's eyes glistened. "She needs you," Dominic said. "I need." He stopped, swallowed. "I don't want to build whatever comes next on another lie. I want something real, even if it terrifies me." Olivia studied his face. The exhaustion, the vulnerability, the fear that he was trying so hard to hide. "You said us last night," she whispered. "What does that even mean?" "I'm a waitress. You're the ghost of Manhattan." Dominic let out a breath that sounded almost like a laugh. "I don't know what it means," he admitted. "I just know that when I imagine tomorrow, any tomorrow, I see you in it. You and Lily, together." He reached out, hesitant, and touched her hand. "Stay, please. Let me protect you both." Let me give Lily the family she deserves." Olivia looked down at his hand on hers. "And what do you get?" Dominic's gray eyes met her green ones. "A reason to be something better than what I am." They sat across from each other at the kitchen table. Morning light painted the marble countertops gold. Steam rose from untouched coffee cups. Between them lay an invisible line, the boundary between two worlds that should never have collided. Dominic spoke first. "I have a proposal." Olivia's fingers tightened around her cup. "I'm listening. Stay here. Live in this penthouse. Be Lily's mother officially, legally, in every way that matters." And in return, Dominic pulled a folder from beneath the table. He slid it toward her. "Your hospital debt, $87,000, will be paid by noon today. Your landlord in the Bronx will receive 6 months of back rent plus compensation. You'll never work 3 jobs again." Olivia stared at the folder but didn't touch it. "You're trying to buy me. I'm trying to protect you." Dominic leaned forward, his voice dropping. "You can take Lily and leave right now. I won't stop you. I'll sign whatever papers you need. She's your daughter by blood. No court in the world would side with me." He paused. "But Victor will find you." The name hung in the air like poison. "My uncle has spent 20 years building a network of informants, assassins, and corrupt officials. He orchestrated the theft of your child. He murdered my wife. And now that you exist, now that you're a threat to his plans, he will not let you live." Olivia's face went pale. "You could run," Dominic continued. "You could take Lily to another state, another country. But Victor has people everywhere. You'd spend the rest of your life looking over your shoulder. And one day, maybe a month from now, maybe a year, he would find you." He reached across the table and touched her hand. "Stay here. Let me protect you both. Inside these walls, with my resources and my men, Victor can't touch you. Outside them, you're prey." Olivia pulled her hand back. "So I trade one cage for another. This isn't a cage. It's a fortress. It's still your world." Her voice shook. "Guns, violence, blood money. I grew up in hell, Dominic. I spent my whole life trying to escape men who hurt people. And now you're asking me to live in the middle of it. I'm asking you to live. Period." Silence stretched between them. Olivia thought about her apartment in the Bronx, the broken radiator, the mold on the ceiling, the nights she went to bed hungry so she could afford the subway fare to work. She thought about Marcus, the cigarette burns, the stairs. She thought about the cemetery, the empty grave, the wild flowers she couldn't afford, and she thought about Lily, her daughter, the little girl who had spent 2.5 years in silence, waiting for a mother she didn't know she had. Could Olivia really walk away now? Could she take Lily into a world where Victor Castellano hunted them like animals? Could she protect her daughter alone, broke, traumatized, with nothing but her own 2 hands? The answer was no, and they both knew it. "If I stay," Olivia said slowly, "I want it in writing, legal documents. I'm Lily's guardian, not your guest, not your charity case. Her guardian. With rights. Done. And if you ever try to take her from me, I'll burn your empire to the ground. I don't care how powerful you are." Dominic's lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. "I believe you." He pulled out a pen and signed the document in front of her. Then he slid it across the table. Olivia hesitated. Her hand trembled as she picked up the pen. This was it. The moment her life changed forever. Again, she signed her name. The pen had barely left the paper when the kitchen door burst open. Lily stood in the doorway, hair tangled from sleep, stuffed bunny dragging on the floor. Her green eyes darted between the 2 adults, bright with excitement. Then she smiled the biggest smile Olivia had ever seen. "Daddy! Mamá! Breakfast!" 3 words, 1 sentence, 2 names she had never spoken together before. Dominic's breath caught. Olivia's eyes filled with tears. And somewhere in that sun-drenched kitchen, between a Mafia boss and a waitress from the Bronx, a family began to form. Across the city, in a brownstone mansion in Brooklyn Heights, Victor Castellano poured himself a glass of whiskey and stared at the photographs spread across his desk. Olivia Chen. The name burned in his mind like acid. At 52 years old, Victor had spent 2 decades perfecting the art of patience. He had watched his brother rise to power and die. He had watched his nephew inherit an empire that should have been his. He had smiled at family dinners, offered counsel in boardrooms, played the role of loyal uncle with Oscar-worthy precision, and he had waited. The plan had been flawless. Vanessa's fake pregnancy, the stolen child, the leverage he would hold over the Castellano bloodline for generations. Lily had no Castellano DNA, which meant she couldn't legally inherit, which meant that when the truth finally surfaced at a time of Victor's choosing, Dominic would be ruined, disgraced, vulnerable, and Victor would step in to save the family. But now this girl had appeared, this waitress, this nobody from the Bronx who should have spent the rest of her miserable life mourning a dead baby. How had she found Lily? How had the child recognized her? Victor drained his whiskey and slammed the glass down. He had underestimated biology, the bond between mother and child, the instinct that transcended memory and time. And now Dominic was asking questions, pulling medical records, making phone calls that Victor's informants had flagged within hours. Dr. Park was dying. Victor knew that. The old fool had been useful once, but cancer had made him sentimental, guilty, dangerous. If Park talked, if he confessed everything before he died, Victor's entire empire of lies would crumble. He couldn't let that happen. Victor picked up his phone and scrolled to a number labeled only with initials. He typed a message and sent it to a burner phone registered under a fake name. The message would reach Olivia Chen within the hour. Olivia was helping Lily stack blocks when her phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen. Unknown number. Probably spam. She ignored it and returned to the game, laughing as Lily knocked the tower down with dramatic flair. The phone buzzed again, and again. Frowning, Olivia picked it up and opened the message. Her blood turned to ice. Leave the Castellanos if you want to live. Below the text was a photograph. Olivia and Lily in the penthouse living room, taken through the window. The angle suggested a telephoto lens from a building across the street. Someone was watching them. Olivia's hands shook. She looked at Lily, happily rebuilding her block tower, oblivious to the danger that had just slithered into their fragile peace. Her first instinct was to run to Dominic, to show him the message, to demand answers, to beg for protection. But then she stopped. Dominic had enough on his shoulders. He was already fighting a war she didn't fully understand, a war against his own family, his own blood. He had given her shelter, safety, a chance to be with her daughter. What right did she have to add more weight to his burden? Olivia deleted the message. She told herself it was probably nothing, a scare tactic, empty threats from someone too cowardly to act. She told herself she could handle it. She was wrong. In Brooklyn Heights, Victor Castellano received confirmation that the message had been delivered. He smiled. Fear was a useful tool. It made people careless. It made them run, and running made them easy to catch. But Olivia Chen was just the beginning. Victor picked up his phone and dialed a number he knew by heart. The Asian girl, he said when the line connected. I want to know where she goes, what she eats, when she breathes, every movement, every contact, everything. And the boss? The voice on the other end asked. Dominic? Victor walked to his window and looked out at the Manhattan skyline. Somewhere in that forest of glass and steel, his nephew was playing house with a waitress and a stolen child. Pathetic. My dear nephew, Victor said softly, will soon reunite with his wife. He hung up and raised his glass to the city lights. Enjoy your little family while you can, Dominic. It won't last long. 2 weeks passed like a dream Olivia was afraid to wake from. Life in the penthouse developed a rhythm. Morning cartoons with Lily, breakfast together at the Marble Island, afternoons filled with books, games, and the simple joy of watching her daughter discover the world. Lily was transforming. The silent child who had spent 2.5 years trapped inside herself was slowly emerging. She spoke now, not constantly, not to everyone, but to Olivia and Dominic. 40 words became 50. 50 became 60. Each new word felt like a miracle. Bunny, juice, more please, love you. Every syllable was a gift Olivia had never expected to receive. On Tuesday of the second week, Olivia decided to bake cookies. The penthouse kitchen had never been used for anything more complicated than coffee, but Olivia found flour in the pantry, butter in the refrigerator, and chocolate chips hidden behind protein powder that probably belonged to a bodyguard. Lily stood on a step stool beside her, wearing an apron that hung past her knees. Mix, Mama? Yes, baby. Mix it all together. Lily plunged her small hands into the bowl. Flour exploded everywhere on the counter, on the floor, in Lily's hair, across Olivia's face. Lily froze, eyes wide with fear. She had broken things before. She knew what happened when messes were made. But Olivia just laughed. Deep, genuine laughter that echoed off the marble walls. She scooped flour from her own cheek and dotted it on Lily's nose. Mama Snow, Lily giggled. Lily Snow too. They were both covered in white powder, laughing like fools, when the elevator doors opened. Dominic stepped out. He had left for work at 6 that morning, grim-faced and silent, carrying the weight of whatever dark business occupied his days. Olivia expected him back after midnight, as usual. It was 4 in the afternoon. He stopped in the doorway of the kitchen, taking in the scene. Flour on every surface. His daughter covered in white powder. Olivia with dough in her hair and a smile on her face. Something shifted in his expression. And then for the first time since Olivia had met him, Dominic Castellano laughed. Not a smirk, not a polite chuckle, a real laugh, surprised out of him, transforming his face into something almost boyish. "Daddy home!" Lily shrieked, pointing accusingly at Olivia. "Mama made mess." "I see that," Dominic said, still smiling. "A very big mess." He walked into the kitchen, heedless of the flour coating his $1,000 shoes, and kissed Lily's forehead. Then he looked at Olivia. "You have something here," he said, reaching out to brush flour from her cheek. His fingers lingered a moment too long. Olivia forgot how to breathe. After that day, things changed. Dominic came home earlier. He asked about their day. He sat on the floor and played blocks with Lily while Olivia read on the couch. And late at night, when Lily was asleep, they talked. Olivia told him about the foster homes, about the family that locked her in a closet for breaking a plate, about Marcus, how he had seemed so kind at first, how the kindness had curdled into control, then cruelty. She showed him the scars, the cigarette burns, the faded lines on her wrists. Dominic listened without judgment, without pity. He simply held her hand and let her speak. It was the first time Olivia had trusted anyone with her whole story. That night, Lily screamed. Olivia was out of bed before she was fully awake, running down the hall in bare feet. She burst into Lily's room to find the child thrashing against her blankets, crying in her sleep. "No, no, dark, Mama." Dominic appeared seconds later, still dressed, as if he hadn't slept at all. They reached the bed at the same moment. Olivia gathered Lily into her arms while Dominic sat beside them, his hand on his daughter's back. Together, they held the trembling child between them. Olivia began to hum, a lullaby she didn't remember learning, something soft and sad that lived in her bones. Dominic joined her, his deep voice a rumble beneath her melody. Slowly, Lily's cries faded. Her breathing steadied. She relaxed into sleep, one hand clutching Olivia's shirt, the other wrapped around Dominic's finger. In the darkness, Olivia looked up. Dominic was watching her. His gray eyes held something she couldn't name, something raw and terrifying and hopeful all at once. Neither of them spoke, but in that silence, surrounded by shadows and the sound of their daughter breathing, they both felt it. Something was changing. While Olivia and Lily built a fragile paradise in the penthouse, Dominic waged a silent war. He worked through the nights, long after the apartment fell quiet. His study became a command center, documents spread across the desk, laptop screens glowing with financial records, encrypted phone calls to men who specialized in finding buried secrets. The deeper he dug, the darker the truth became. Victor Castellano had been stealing from the family for 20 years. Shell companies in the Cayman Islands, real estate purchases under fake names, wire transfers disguised as legitimate business expenses. The total was staggering: $12 million siphoned from Castellano accounts, funding an operation that existed completely off the books. Victor had built his own army, soldiers loyal not to the family, but to him personally. Men stationed throughout the city, waiting for orders that Dominic knew nothing about. But that wasn't the worst of it. Dominic found the police report from Vanessa's accident. He had read it before 2 years ago, standing in a hospital hallway, numb with grief. Car lost control on a wet road, hit a guardrail. No other vehicles involved. Tragic, random, unavoidable. Except now Dominic had access to records he hadn't seen before. Mechanic reports showing that Vanessa's brake lines had been compromised. Witness statements that were never included in the official file. A payment of $50,000 to the lead detective, made 3 days after the case was closed. Victor hadn't just helped steal a child, he had murdered Dominic's wife. The realization hit like a knife between the ribs. Dominic sat alone in his study, staring at the evidence, feeling something cold and lethal settle into his bones. His uncle, his blood, the man who had bounced him on his knee as a child. A murderer. Across the penthouse, Olivia's phone buzzed. She was giving Lily a bath, surrounded by bubbles and rubber ducks. She almost ignored it. Almost. But something made her reach for the screen. Another message. Another unknown number. This time, there was no text. Just a photograph. Olivia and Lily at the park yesterday, feeding pigeons, laughing in the sunshine. The shot was taken from behind a tree, close enough to see the pattern on Lily's dress. Olivia's blood turned to ice. They were still watching. She deleted the message with trembling fingers. Then she deleted the previous threats, all of them burying the evidence of her fear. She couldn't tell Dominic. He was already carrying so much. She refused to be another weight on his shoulders. So she smiled through dinner, She laughed at Lily's jokes. She pretended everything was fine, but her hands shook when she thought no one was looking. That night, Olivia fell asleep on the couch. Her phone slipped from her hand onto the cushion. When Dominic came to cover her with a blanket, he noticed the screen was still lit. He picked it up to turn it off. The deleted folder was open. She had forgotten to empty it. Dominic saw the photographs, the threats, the timestamps showing weeks of harassment that Olivia had faced alone. His jaw tightened. His hands trembled with barely contained rage. He woke her gently. Olivia. Her eyes fluttered open. She saw the phone in his hand. The color drained from her face. Why didn't you tell me? Tears spilled down her cheeks before she could stop them. Because I didn't want to be a burden. You've already done so much. I couldn't ask for more. Dominic knelt beside the couch. He took her hand in both of his, holding it like something precious. You're not a burden, Olivia. His voice cracked. Your family. The penthouse became a fortress. Armed guards appeared at every entrance. Security cameras multiplied. The doorman was replaced with 2 men who carried weapons under their jackets and never smiled. Dominic's orders were absolute. Olivia and Lily were not to leave the building. No exceptions, no negotiations. Olivia understood. The photographs proved that Victor's reach extended far beyond what she had imagined. The streets were no longer safe. The park was enemy territory. Even sunlight felt dangerous now. So she stayed. And in the confined space of the penthouse, she found herself constantly aware of Dominic's presence. The way he moved through rooms, the sound of his voice on late-night phone calls, the scent of his cologne lingering in hallways, the accidental brushes of hands when they both reached for Lily at the same time. The walls were closing in, but Olivia wasn't sure if she minded. 3 nights after the threats were discovered, Olivia couldn't sleep. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to the city hum far below. Her mind wouldn't stop racing fear and hope and something else tangled together until she couldn't breathe. She needed air. The balcony was cold. November had arrived without warning, stealing the last warmth from the city. Olivia stood at the railing in thin pajamas, shivering, watching her breath form clouds against the darkness. She didn't hear Dominic approach. The first sign of his presence was warmth, his jacket settling over her shoulders, heavy with his scent. You'll freeze out here. Olivia pulled the jacket tighter. Couldn't sleep. Neither could I. He stood beside her, close enough to touch but not touching. They stared at the skyline together, a million lights flickering like earthbound stars. Can I ask you something? Olivia said quietly. Anything. How did you become this? The ghost of Manhattan, the man everyone fears. Dominic was silent for a long moment. My father was killed when I was 14, he finally said. Shot in our kitchen. I watched him die on the floor while my mother screamed. Olivia's heart clenched. The men who did it were rivals. They wanted to send a message to the family. My father was the message. His voice was flat, rehearsed, as if he had told this story so many times it no longer hurt. But Olivia knew better. She recognized the careful emptiness of someone who had learned to bury pain so deep it became invisible. After that, I had 2 choices. Be weak and die, or be strong and survive. He turned to look at her. I chose survival. I built walls so high that no one could hurt me. I became the thing that other men feared. And it worked. For 20 years. His gray eyes held hers. Then Lily came. She broke through every wall I had. She made me feel things I thought I had killed. He reached out and brushed a strand of hair from Olivia's face. Then you came, and whatever walls were left, you destroyed them. Olivia's breath caught. Dominic, I know this is complicated. I know I'm not a good man. I know you deserve better than a life surrounded by guards and threats and violence. He stepped closer. But when I look at you, when I see you with Lily, I feel something I haven't felt in 20 years. What? Hope. The word hung between them, fragile and powerful. Then Dominic leaned down and kissed her. It was gentle, hesitant, a question more than a statement. His lips barely brushed hers, giving her every opportunity to pull away. She didn't. Olivia rose onto her toes and kissed him back. Her hands found his chest, feeling his heart pound beneath her palms. His arms wrapped around her, pulling her close, holding her like she was something precious. The city sparkled below them. The cold wind swirled around them, and for one perfect moment, nothing else existed. When they finally broke apart, Olivia was trembling. This is dangerous, she whispered. Dominic pressed his forehead against hers. I know. We could destroy each other. I know. Then why? He silenced her with another kiss, softer this time, like a promise. Because I stopped caring about danger the moment my daughter called you, Mama. 1 week after the kiss on the balcony, Dominic made an announcement. We're getting engaged. Olivia nearly dropped her coffee cup. What? Not for real. Not yet. He sat across from her at the breakfast table, his expression serious. But Victor is escalating. I need to protect you legally, socially, publicly. As my fiancé, you become untouchable. Anyone who harms you harms the Castellano family directly. So this is strategy? Dominic reached across the table and took her hand. It started as strategy, but after that night on the balcony, he paused, searching for words. I want this to be real, Olivia. When you're ready. If you're ever ready. Olivia looked at their intertwined fingers. A month ago, she had been a waitress scrubbing dishes for minimum wage. Now she was discussing marriage with the most powerful man in New York. Okay, she whispered. Let's do it. The Castellano estate in Long Island was a palace of white marble and manicured gardens. 300 guests filled the ballroom, politicians, business moguls, old money families whose names appeared in history books. Crystal chandeliers cast rainbow light across silk gowns and tailored tuxedos. A string quartet played softly beneath the hum of polite conversation. And in the center of it all stood Olivia Chen. She barely recognized herself. The sapphire blue gown hugged her body like it had been painted on. Her hair was swept up in an elegant twist. Diamonds borrowed from a Castellano vault sparkled at her throat and ears. For the first time in 27 years, Olivia felt beautiful. Not pretty, not acceptable, beautiful. Dominic stood beside her, his hand warm on the small of her back. He introduced her to senators and CEOs, to judges and foreign dignitaries. Each time, he used the same words. My fiancée, Olivia. Each time, his voice held pride. Not performance, pride. Victor arrived fashionably late. He swept into the ballroom with the confidence of a man who owned the world. Silver hair perfectly styled, smile perfectly practiced, eyes perfectly cold. He approached the happy couple with arms spread wide. Nephew! Congratulations are in order. Dominic's jaw tightened, but his voice remained cordial. Uncle. Glad you could make it. Victor turned to Olivia. His smile widened, but his gaze was ice. And the lovely bride-to-be, he took her hand and pressed his lips to her knuckles. A waitress from the Bronx, wasn't it? How romantic. The insult was wrapped in velvet, but Olivia heard the razor beneath. She smiled sweetly. At least I earned my place, Mr. Castellano. Not everyone can say the same. Victor's eye twitched. Just barely. Just enough. Charming, he said through his teeth. Simply charming. I can see why Dominic is so captivated. She's remarkable, Dominic said, pulling Olivia closer. Lily adores her. So do I. Something flickered in Victor's expression. Fear? Calculation? It vanished too quickly to identify. Well, he straightened his cufflinks. I wish you both every happiness. Marriage in this family can be unpredictable. He walked away before either could respond. Olivia released a breath she didn't know she was holding. He knows, she whispered. He suspects, Dominic corrected. But suspicion isn't proof, and tonight, we show him strength. The string quartet shifted into a waltz. Dominic led Olivia to the center of the dance floor. Every eye in the room followed them. His hand found hers. Her other hand rested on his shoulder. They began to move. I don't really know how to dance, Olivia admitted quietly. You don't have to. Just follow me. She did. And somehow, impossibly, they fit together perfectly. Is this part of the performance? She asked as he spun her beneath the chandeliers. Dominic pulled her close, his lips brushing her ear. It stopped being a performance the moment you agreed to stay. When she looked up at him, she saw no trace of the ghost of Manhattan. Only a man looking at a woman like she was his entire world. Dominic. I love you, Olivia. The words were barely audible above the music, but she heard them. She felt them. Before she could respond, a commotion erupted near the entrance. Bruno Dominic's head of security pushed through the crowd. His face was pale, his hand pressed against his earpiece. Boss. Dominic stopped dancing immediately. What is it? The house. The penthouse. Bruno's voice shook. The alarm system is silent. The perimeter went down 8 minutes ago. And the nanny. Olivia's blood turned to ice. The nanny isn't answering. Chaos erupted. Dominic shoved through the crowd, dragging Olivia behind him. Guests scattered like startled birds. Champagne glasses crashing to the marble floor. Someone screamed. Security personnel rushed in all directions, shouting into radios. Where is Victor? Dominic barked at Bruno. Gone, boss. He left through the service entrance 5 minutes ago. His car is missing from the lot. 5 minutes. The same time the alarm went down. This wasn't coincidence. This was coordinated. Olivia's heart pounded so hard she could hear it in her ears. Lily, her baby, alone with whoever Victor had sent. The car, she gasped. We need to go. Now. They burst through the mansion's front doors into the cold night air. A black SUV waited at the bottom of the steps, engine already running. Bruno had called ahead. Dominic threw open the back door and pushed Olivia inside. He climbed in after her. Drive, he commanded. The penthouse. Maximum speed. The SUV tore down the gravel driveway, tires screaming as they hit the main road. Olivia couldn't breathe. She kept seeing Lily's face, her daughter's smile, her laugh, the way she said Mama like it was the most precious word in the world. Please let her be okay. Dominic's phone rang. The sound cut through the silence like a blade. Unknown number. Dominic answered immediately, putting it on speaker. First came the crying. Lily's voice high, terrified, broken sobbing through the phone. Mama! Mama! Scary man! Want Mama! Olivia screamed. Lily! Baby, I'm coming. Mama's coming. Touching. Victor's voice replaced the crying. Smooth, satisfied, dripping with contempt. Really, nephew? A waitress from the Bronx? I expected more from you. Dominic's knuckles turned white around the phone. Where is she? Victor. Safe. For now. She's quite the vocal little thing once you get her started. Such a shame she wasted all those years in silence. She has so much to say. If you hurt her, you'll what? Kill me? Victor laughed. You've had 2 weeks to make a move, Dominic. 2 weeks since you learned everything. And what did you do? You played house with your little orphan and threw an engagement party. His voice hardened. You thought you won, nephew. You thought you could bring a stray dog into our house and call her queen. You thought you could outsmart me. What do you want? The words came out like broken glass. Victor let the silence stretch. In the background, Lily's crying continued, muffled now, as if someone had covered her mouth. Everything, Victor finally said. The empire your father built. The ports, the unions, the accounts, all of it transferred to me by midnight. And your head, figuratively speaking. You disappear, Dominic. You walk away from this life forever. You leave New York and never come back. Dominic closed his eyes. If I do all that, you'll release Lily? Perhaps. If I'm feeling generous, that's not good enough. It's all you're going to get. Victor's voice dropped to a whisper. You have 1 hour, nephew. Meet me at the estate. The old house in Southampton. Come alone. No guards. No weapons. No tricks. And if I refuse? The line crackled. Then Lily's scream pierced through the speaker, sharp, terrified, cut off abruptly. Then the little princess learns to fly. It's a long way down from that rooftop, Dominic. Children are so fragile. The line went dead. Olivia was shaking uncontrollably. Tears streamed down her face. Her fingernails had drawn blood from her own palms. He's going to kill her, she whispered. Even if you give him everything, he's going to kill her. Dominic stared at the phone in his hand. His face was stone, but his eyes burned with something Olivia had never seen before. Not anger, resolve. Then I won't give him the chance. He turned to the driver. Change of plans. Southampton estate. Now. Olivia grabbed his hand. Her grip was fierce, desperate. I'm coming with you. Olivia, it's too dangerous. She's my daughter. Her voice cracked. I already lost her once. I won't lose her again. I'm coming with you. Dominic looked at her, this broken woman who had survived everything life had thrown at her, who had clawed her way out of hell only to fall into another one. Together, then, he said quietly. Together. The Southampton estate loomed against the night sky like a mausoleum. No lights, no movement, just darkness and silence, and the distant crash of waves against the cliffs below. Dominic killed the headlights 100 yards from the gate. The SUV rolled to a stop on the gravel road, engine idling. Stay here, he said to Olivia. No. Olivia, I said no. Her voice was steel wrapped in desperation. My daughter is in there. I'm not waiting in a car while you, then stay behind me. Do exactly what I say. Understand? She nodded. They approached on foot, moving through shadows. The iron gates hung open, torn from their hinges, locks shattered. Someone had forced entry, or someone had wanted it to look that way. The front door was ajar. Dominic pulled a gun from his waistband he had lied to Victor about coming unarmed and pushed the door open with his foot. Darkness greeted them. The foyer smelled wrong. copper and cordite, blood and gunpowder. Dominic found the light switch, clicked it. Nothing. Power's cut, he murmured. Stay close. They moved through the house room by room. Living room furniture overturned, a lamp shattered on the floor, dining room chairs scattered, a window cracked, kitchen cabinet doors hanging open, broken glass everywhere. Then they found the first body, one of Dominic's guards, lying face down in the hallway, blood pooling beneath him. Shot twice in the back. Olivia pressed her hand over her mouth to stifle a scream. 2 more bodies in the study, another at the base of the stairs. All Dominic's men. All shot from behind. They never saw it coming. Victor hadn't come alone. He had brought an army. He planned this, Dominic whispered. The engagement party, the timing, all of it. He lured us away and hit the house with everything he had. Olivia's whole body trembled. Where is she? Where's Lily? As if in answer, a sound drifted down from above. Crying, faint, terrified, unmistakable. Lily. Olivia bolted for the stairs before Dominic could stop her. He cursed and followed, taking the steps 2 at a time. 2nd floor empty, 3rd floor empty, 4th floor a door at the end of the hall, leading to the rooftop terrace. The crying was louder now, echoing off stone walls. Dominic grabbed Olivia's arm. Let me go first. She needs me, and she'll need you alive. Let me go first. He pushed open the door. The wind hit them immediately cold, salt heavy, carrying the roar of the ocean far below. The terrace stretched out before them, surrounded by a low iron railing, and at the edge stood Victor. He held Lily by the back of her nightgown. The little girl dangled over the railing, her tiny legs kicking at empty air. 15 stories below. Jagged rocks jutted from the churning sea. One slip, one opened hand, and Lily would fall. Lily! Olivia screamed. The child's head turned. Her tear-streaked face found her mother in the darkness. Mamá! Mamá, help! Scary, falling. Victor smiled. The expression didn't reach his eyes. Ah, there you are. He pulled Lily slightly back from the edge, not to safety, just enough to make a point. I was beginning to worry you wouldn't show. Dominic raised his gun. Let her go. Victor, put that down, nephew. We both know you won't risk a shot. Not with my hand being the only thing between your precious princess and a very long drop. Dominic's hand shook, but he didn't lower the weapon. Victor sighed theatrically. Stubborn, just like your father. He didn't know when to surrender either. Look where that got him. You killed him, Dominic said. Didn't you? All those years ago. It wasn't rivals. It was you. Someone had to. He was weak, sentimental. He would have run this family into the ground. Victor's grip on Lily's nightgown tightened. Just like you're doing now. Playing house with a waitress. Calling another woman's bastard your daughter. Olivia stepped forward. She's my daughter. And you stole her from me. Victor's eyebrows rose. The stray speaks. How charming. He turned his attention back to Dominic. I gave you everything, nephew. I taught you. I guided you. I made you the ghost of Manhattan. And this is how you repay me? By digging into my finances? By turning my own men against me? You murdered Vanessa. I cleaned up her mess. There's a difference. Lily sobbed louder, her small body shaking with terror. Victor looked down at the child with something like disgust. Pathetic. 2.5 years of silence, and now she won't shut up. He dangled her further over the edge. Perhaps I should fix that permanently. No! Olivia lunged forward. Victor's free hand produced a pistol, aimed directly at her chest. Stay right there, Miss Chen. We have so much to discuss. He smiled at both of them, a smile full of teeth and malice and 20 years of festering ambition. Welcome to the family reunion. Now, let's discuss succession. The wind screamed across the rooftop. Dominic stood frozen, his gun still raised, watching his uncle dangle his daughter over 15 stories of empty air. Every instinct told him to shoot. Every calculation told him he couldn't risk it. One wrong move, one flinch, and Lily would fall. Put the gun down, nephew. Dominic didn't move. Victor sighed. Must we do this the hard way? He loosened his grip slightly. Lily dropped an inch, screaming, Stop! Dominic threw the gun aside. It clattered across the stone floor, spinning to a stop near the rooftop door. Victor smiled. Better. Now, let's talk like civilized men. There's nothing civilized about you. Perhaps not, but I am practical. Victor adjusted his grip on Lily's nightgown, pulling her slightly closer still over the edge, still dangling, but no longer dropping. I've spent 20 years building toward this moment, Dominic. 20 years of patience, of planning, of watching your father squander an empire and your wife scheme behind your back. You helped her scheme. I guided her. There's a difference. Victor's eyes glittered in the moonlight. Vanessa came to me desperate, barren, terrified that you would discard her when you discovered the truth. I offered her a solution. You offered her a stolen child. I offered her survival. The orphan girl was perfect, no family, no connections, no one to ask questions. We took her baby, gave it to Vanessa, and everyone was happy. He paused. For a while, Olivia's voice cut through the wind. You destroyed my life. You told me my daughter was dead. Victor barely glanced at her. You were collateral damage. Nothing personal. I visited her grave every week for 2.5 years, and now you know the truth. Isn't that what you wanted? His tone was mocking. Your precious baby is alive. She's right here. All you have to do is take her. He held Lily out further, her small body swinging in the wind. Mamá! Lily screamed. Mamá, help! Olivia lunged forward. Victor's pistol snapped toward her. One more step, Miss Chen. I dare you. Dominic moved between them. This is between us. Victor, let them go. Whatever you want, money, power, the ports, it's yours. Just let them go. Generous, but insufficient. Victor's smile faded. You see, nephew, you've become a liability. You know too much. You've been digging into my accounts, my operations, my alliances. Even if I let you walk away tonight, you'll spend the rest of your life trying to destroy me. So what do you want? Victor's answer was simple. You. The word hung in the air. Jump, Victor said. Climb onto that railing and step off the edge. Fall 15 stories onto those rocks below. Die and I'll let the girl and her mother live. You're insane. I'm practical. Your death solves every problem I have. The Empire passes to me as next of kin. The investigation dies with you. And this child. He shook Lily slightly. This child becomes my ward, my leverage, my puppet. She has no Castellano blood, Dominic said through gritted teeth. You said it yourself. She can't inherit. Blood can be fabricated. Documents can be forged. I've done it before. Victor's eyes narrowed. The child was always a pawn, nephew, a tool to control your wife. Then you, then the entire family. She has no value beyond her usefulness. Something snapped inside Dominic. He stepped forward, his voice dropping to a growl. She's my daughter. Blood or not, I raised her. I held her through 2.5 years of silence. I loved her when she couldn't love me back. And I will burn this entire world to the ground before I let you use her as a pawn. For a moment, just a moment, Victor looked uncertain. Then he laughed. Noble, touching, and utterly irrelevant. He gestured toward the railing with his pistol. You have 10 seconds, nephew. Climb up and jump, or watch your daughter fall. Dominic, don't, Olivia started. 1. Dominic looked at Lily. His daughter. His whole world. 2. He looked at Olivia, the woman who had given him hope, the woman he loved. 3. He made his choice. Dominic walked to the railing. The wind tore at his clothes. Below, the rocks gleamed wet in the moonlight, the ocean churning around them. No! Olivia screamed. Dominic, no! He climbed onto the low wall, stood at the edge of oblivion. 4. Dominic turned to look at Olivia one last time. His gray eyes held no fear, only love, only peace. Take care of her, he said quietly. Tell her daddy loved her. Every day, every moment, even when she couldn't hear me. Dominic, please. 5. Tell her I'm sorry I couldn't stay. 6. Tears streamed down Olivia's face. She couldn't breathe, couldn't think, could only watch the man she loved prepare to die for their daughter. 7. Dominic closed his eyes. 8. Victor smiled. Noble, pathetic, but noble. 9. Goodbye, nephew. 10. Victor opened his hand. Lily dropped. Time stopped. The little girl's scream pierced the night, a sound of pure terror, pure helplessness, falling toward the rocks and the waves and the end of everything. But Olivia was already moving. She had started running the moment Victor said 9. Not toward Victor, not toward Dominic, toward the edge. Her body acted on instinct. The instinct of a mother who had already lost her child once. The instinct that said death was preferable to watching her baby die. She dove. Olivia moved faster than thought. Her body became pure instinct, muscle and bone, and a mother's desperate love compressed into a single, impossible moment. She hit the wet stone floor in a slide, her sapphire gown tearing, her knees scraping raw against the rooftop. The iron railing rushed toward her. She twisted sideways, threading her body through the gap between the bars, one arm reaching into the void. Lily was falling. The little girl's nightgown billowed around her like wings that couldn't fly. Her arms pinwheeled. Her mouth was open in a scream that the wind stole away. Olivia's fingers closed around Lily's ankle. The impact nearly tore her arm from its socket. Her shoulder slammed into the iron railing with a sickening crunch. Pain exploded through her body, white-hot, blinding, irrelevant. She felt something tear in her rotator cuff. Felt the joint threaten to separate. She didn't let go. Olivia hung half off the rooftop, her left hand gripping the railing, her right hand wrapped around her daughter's ankle. 15 stories of empty air gaped below them. The rocks waited. The ocean roared. And between Lily and death was nothing but her mother's grip. "I got you!" Olivia screamed through the pain. "Mama's got you!" Lily's terrified eyes found her mother's face above her. The child was sobbing, trembling, dangling upside down in the darkness. "Mama! I've got you, baby. I won't let go. Mama won't ever let go." Olivia's arm was on fire. The muscles screamed. The joint ground against itself with every gust of wind. She could feel her grip slipping, sweat and terror, making her fingers slide on Lily's skin. She held tighter. She would die before she released her daughter. She would let her own body tear apart before she let Lily fall. Above her, Victor stared in disbelief. "Impossible," he breathed. Then his shock hardened into rage. He raised his pistol, aiming directly at Olivia's head. "Persistent little stray," he snarled. "Fine. Die together." His finger tightened on the trigger. Bang! The shot echoed across the rooftop. But Victor didn't fire. He stumbled forward, a look of profound surprise crossing his face. His free hand reached toward his chest, where a red bloom was spreading across his white shirt. Behind him stood Dominic. In the chaos of Olivia's dive, Victor had forgotten about the gun Dominic had thrown aside. He had forgotten that the ghost of Manhattan hadn't survived 20 years by following rules. Dominic had jumped down from the railing the moment Lily fell. While Victor watched Olivia catch their daughter, Dominic had retrieved his weapon from where it lay near the rooftop door. Now he stood 3 feet behind his uncle, gun raised, eyes cold. "That's for my father," Dominic said quietly. "For Vanessa, for Olivia, for every life you destroyed." Victor turned slowly. Blood bubbled at his lips. You were supposed to jump?" Dominic shook his head. "I never planned to die tonight, Victor. I planned to kill you." Victor's legs buckled. He stumbled backward, hitting the low railing. This isn't over." "Yes," Dominic said. "It is." He didn't fire again. He didn't need to. Victor's weight carried him over the edge. His arms pinwheeled. His mouth opened in a final scream. And then he was gone, swallowed by the darkness, by the rocks, by the hungry sea below. Dominic didn't watch him fall. He was already running toward Olivia. "Hold on." He dropped to his knees at the railing, reaching through the bars. His hands found Olivia's arm, her shoulder, the back of her torn dress. "I've got you." Let go of the railing. "I've got you." "Lily first," Olivia gasped. "Pull her up first." Dominic reached down with his other hand, grabbing Lily under her arms. With a strength born of terror and love, he hauled his daughter up and over the railing, setting her safely on the rooftop. Then he turned back to Olivia. "Now you, give me your hand." Olivia's left hand released the railing. Dominic caught it, pulled. Her body scraped over the iron bars, tearing more of the ruined dress, leaving skin and blood behind. She collapsed onto the cold stone, gasping, crying, shaking with pain and relief. Lily crawled toward her immediately. "Mama!" The little girl threw herself into Olivia's arms, sobbing. Olivia held her, ignoring the screaming agony in her shoulder, ignoring everything except the warm weight of her daughter against her chest. "I've got you," she whispered. "Mama's got you. You're safe now. You're safe." Dominic wrapped his arms around both of them. The 3 of them huddled together on the freezing rooftop, surrounded by darkness and wind and the distant crash of waves. They held each other like survivors of a shipwreck, clinging to the same piece of driftwood. No one spoke. Words seemed too small for what had just happened. Then Lily's small voice broke the silence. "Daddy," she reached up and touched Dominic's face. "Mama," she touched Olivia's cheek. "Safe." Her green eyes, Olivia's eyes, looked between them, filled with tears but also with something else. Something that looked like peace. "Family," Lily whispered. The word hung in the air like a prayer. Dominic pressed his lips to Lily's forehead, then to Olivia's. "Family," he repeated. And for the first time since that rainy night in the restaurant when a silent child had screamed a single word and changed everything, Olivia believed that maybe, just maybe, she had finally found where she belonged. 3 months passed like a slow exhale. Spring arrived in New York, melting the last traces of winter from the city streets. Cherry blossoms bloomed in Central Park. The days grew longer, warmer, softer, and the Castellano family began to heal. Victor's body was recovered from the rocks 3 days after that terrible night. The official report called it an accident, a tragic fall during a family dispute. No charges were filed, no questions were asked. The ghost of Manhattan still had enough influence to ensure certain truths stayed buried. Victor's private empire crumbled within weeks. His loyal soldiers scattered. His hidden accounts were seized. His network of corruption and violence collapsed like a house of cards without its architect. Dominic watched it burn and felt nothing. He had spent 20 years building a kingdom of shadows. Now, for the first time, he wanted something different. "I'm going legitimate," he told his advisors. "The ports, the unions, the construction contracts, all of it. Clean books, legal operations. No more blood money." They thought he was joking. Then they saw his eyes. The ghost of Manhattan was becoming something else. Something that looked almost like a man. Olivia started therapy in April. Twice a week, she sat in a quiet office overlooking the Hudson River and talked about the foster homes, about Marcus, about the years of believing her daughter was dead. It wasn't easy. Some sessions left her sobbing. Others left her numb. But slowly, carefully, she began to untangle the knots that had bound her for so long. The scars on her wrists faded from angry red to pale pink. The nightmares came less frequently. The phantom cries that had haunted her for 912 nights finally, mercifully, stopped. She was learning to live without fear. Lily flourished. The silent child who had spent 2.5 years trapped inside herself was gone. In her place was a bright, curious, endlessly chattering 3-year-old who wanted to know everything about everything. "Mamá, why is the sky blue? Mamá, where do butterflies sleep? Mamá, can I have a puppy and a kitten and a horse?" She was learning to read. She could write her name in wobbly letters. She laughed easily, loved fiercely, and said "I love you" at least 40 times a day. Every word was a miracle Olivia would never take for granted. Marcus Webb appeared in May. He showed up at the penthouse lobby, demanding to see Olivia. He had heard rumors the waitress he used to beat was now engaged to a billionaire. He wanted money, compensation, his fair share. He never made it past the front desk. 2 of Dominic's men escorted him to a warehouse in Brooklyn. What happened there was never discussed. But Marcus Webb left New York that night on a bus to nowhere, with 2 broken fingers and a very clear understanding that he would die if he ever returned. Olivia didn't ask questions. Some gifts didn't need explanations. On a warm evening in late May, Dominic led Olivia to the rooftop garden. They had rebuilt it after that terrible night, torn out the blood-stained stones, planted flowers where violence had bloomed. Now it was a sanctuary. Their sanctuary. Lily was asleep downstairs. The city sparkled below, and Dominic dropped to one knee. The ring was simple, a single diamond on a platinum band. Nothing ostentatious, nothing that screamed wealth or power. Just a promise. The first engagement was strategy, Dominic said quietly. Protection. Politics. I told myself it wasn't real. Olivia's eyes filled with tears, but I was lying. To you. To myself. He looked up at her, his gray eyes shining. "I loved you from the moment you held my daughter in that restaurant. I loved you when you stayed despite everything. I loved you when you dove off a rooftop to save her life." His voice cracked. "This time it's not an act, Olivia. This time it's real. Will you marry me?" Olivia looked at the ring, at the man holding it, at the life she had never dared to imagine. She thought of the cemetery in Queens, the empty grave, the wildflowers she used to leave for a daughter who wasn't dead. She thought of 912 nights of grief, and the 912 nights of joy that had finally, impossibly, replaced them. "Yes," she whispered, then louder, laughing through her tears. "Yes, yes, 1,000 times yes." Dominic slid the ring onto her finger and rose to kiss her. Above them, the stars came out one by one, bearing witness to a love story that had begun with a single word screamed in a crowded restaurant, a word that had changed everything. Mamá. 5 years later, the house in Westchester had a garden that bloomed in every color imaginable. Roses along the white picket fence, lavender beneath the kitchen window, a sprawling oak tree with a tire swing that Lily claimed as her throne. It was nothing like the cold penthouse in Manhattan, nothing like the fortress where their story began. It was home. Olivia stood at the kitchen window, watching the afternoon sun paint gold across the grass. Her hand rested on her belly round now, 7 months along, carrying a life that she and Dominic had created together. A boy, the doctor said. A brother for Lily. In the yard, Dominic was attempting to teach their daughter soccer. Attempting was generous. Lily, now 7 years old, was a whirlwind of dark hair and green eyes, an unstoppable energy. She dribbled the ball around her father with the confidence of a professional athlete, leaving him stumbling in her wake. "Come on, Daddy. Too slow." Dominic lunged for the ball. Missed. Nearly fell face first into the grass. Lily kicked it straight into the makeshift goal, 2 lawn chairs positioned 10 feet apart, and threw her arms up in triumph. "Mamá!" she screamed toward the house. "Daddy's a loser!" Dominic straightened up, brushing grass from his knees. "I'm letting you win," he shouted back. "No, you're not. You're just old." Olivia laughed, a full, bright sound that she still sometimes couldn't believe came from her own throat. She walked out the back door and down the porch steps, moving carefully with her pregnant belly leading the way. The grass was soft beneath her bare feet. The sun was warm on her face. Lily sprinted toward her immediately. "Mamá! Did you see? I scored 5 goals. Daddy scored 0. I saw. Baby, you were amazing. Can we get ice cream?" Daddy said no, but you always say yes. "We'll see after dinner." Dominic approached, slightly out of breath, smiling in a way that still made Olivia's heart skip after all these years. "Traitor," he murmured, slipping his arm around her waist. "You always take her side. She's more persuasive than you. She's 7. Exactly." Lily grabbed both their hands and pulled them toward the tire swing, chattering about school and friends and the puppy she desperately wanted for her birthday. Olivia let herself be led, watching her daughter's dark hair bounce in the sunlight, feeling her husband's steady presence beside her, sensing the new life stirring beneath her heart. She thought about the woman she used to be, the orphan, the victim, the girl who visited an empty grave every week, believing her baby was dead, the waitress who worked 3 jobs and slept 4 hours and wondered if surviving was worth the effort. That woman felt like a stranger now. Olivia had walked through fire to get here. She had survived foster homes and abuse and loss and grief. She had faced down a madman on a rooftop and dove into the void to save her daughter's life. And she had emerged on the other side, not unscathed, but whole. She once thought she was born to suffer. Now she knew she was born to be loved. And sometimes, miracles don't come from fairy tales. They don't arrive wrapped in magic or delivered by angels. Sometimes, miracles come from a single word, a word that a 2-year-old girl screamed in a crowded restaurant, changing everything. A word that brought a mother back to her child. A word that built a family from the ashes of tragedy. Mamá, dear viewers, thank you so much for staying with us until the very end of this emotional journey. This story reminds us of something beautiful and true. Family is not always about blood. It's about love, sacrifice, and the courage to fight for the people who matter most. Olivia's journey teaches us that no matter how dark our past may be, we are never defined by our suffering. We are defined by our strength to rise again. And Dominic shows us that even the hardest hearts can learn to love when they find the right person. Now we want to hear from you. How did this story make you feel? Have you ever experienced a moment that changed your life completely? Do you believe in second chances and the power of love to heal old wounds? Please share your thoughts in the comments below. We read every single one, and your stories inspire us to create more content that touches hearts. If this video moved you, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and hit that notification bell so you never miss our daily uploads. Share this story with someone who needs to hear it today. You never know whose life you might change with a single click. Thank you for being part of our community. We wish you good health, happiness, and peace in your daily life. May you always find love where you least expect it. Goodbye for now, and we'll see you in the next video.